Shalom Aleichem. Mishnah Yomi is holding in chapter 9 of Bava Kama, Mishnah 12, and then we'll be going on to chapter 10, the final chapter of Bava Kama, before we start Bava Metzia, which is approaching on the horizon. It's interesting, the Bavas, Bava Kama Metzia Batra, used to be one gigantic Masechta called Nizikin, damages. So it's not all about damages, as we're going to see, but I think maybe it was too heavy for the people to schlep the Gemaras and the Mishnayot around with those, 30 chapters worth of Nizikin, so it was cut into 3 sections. And let's pick up Mishnah Yud Bet. Naton et a kesef lanshe mishmar v'met. The thief who's doing restitution, he's bringing the money that he owes, and he can't pay it back, so he has to give it to the Kohanim who are on duty that week, and he's bringing his carbon to Yerushalayim. And we said yesterday, if he passes away before he brings the money, then his children indeed get the money. It's a personal obligation to pay it back. His children are not obligated. But what if he gave the money and then he passed away? The heirs of the thief who is paying the restitution cannot get the money back from the Kohanim, even though he can't bring the asham anymore, since we've explained a asham, like a hatat, is person specific. Shnamar isha sheyitin lekohen lo yeh. There's a pasuk in Numbers chapter 5, a man who gives to the Kohen, it is his. Meaning once you give a payment to the Kohanim, recall there wasn't anyone else he could have returned the money to, then it belongs to the Kohen, and it does not need to be returned to the heirs of the thief, even if he hadn't brought his asham. Now, what about a case where not on a kesev li Yehoyariv? Now, Yehoyariv is a name of one of the Kohanic families. The Kohanim were in rotations, and every family had its own week, its own chance to serve in the temple. And they had a rotation system worked out with the Batei Av, the big families and the smaller families, and you'd come as a family unit to the temple to serve if you're a Kohen that week. So he gave it to the Yehoyariv shift, the asham li Yedaya, and then he gave the asham the next week to Yedaya. So what's going on is he comes to Yerushalayim on a Friday, and he gives the money to the Kohanim on duty, but he had parked his carbon asham at the hotel or at his friend's house, so then he brings it, following Sunday, and the Kohanic shifts switch out on Saturday. So Yatza, so he's Yotze Tshuva, he's done the job of Tshuva, even if he didn't give the money and the carbon to the same shift of Kohanim. Asham Yehoyariv, if he gave the carbon to Yehoyariv, the Kesev Liyadaya, and then the money the next week, so you can imagine he shows up to Yerushalayim, and he's been schlepping this animal, and he doesn't want to keep it in his hotel room for Shabbos, so he goes ahead and brings it on Friday to the temple, but he had left the money in the hotel, and he brings that Sunday in the next shift. So Imkayim Asham, if the Ashem's still alive, Yakivu b'nei Yedoya. So then the second shift of Kohanim, they should bring the Asham, and they're the ones who got the money too, so no problem. But if they had already offered that carbon on Friday before the money was given as restitution, Yachazav Yavi Asham Acher, he has to bring a second asham. The asham only works after the payment of restitution, the money is made. Shamevi Gizaylo Achloevi Ashamo Yotza. If you brought the return of the theft before you brought the asham, it works. Heavy ashamo Achloevi Gizaylo Lo Yotza, but vice versa, it does not work. Notan, it's a Karen. If he gave the principal amount, the amount he actually stole, but not the chomesh penalty for having sworn falsely about owing this money, ain't a chomesh ma'akev. That is not ma'akev as long as the keren is paid before the asham. The thief has done a proper tshuva, and his tshuva is accepted. Let's go on to chapter 10. A gozel, someone stole, umachilet bonov, and then he fed what he stole to his children, or he left it as Yerusha, and he's passed away. So the thief is out of the picture. The children have consumed it, or they have it in their hands as Yerusha. Patorim Misholim. The heirs of the thief do not have to pay back his victim. But if it's something that has achrayut, means like responsibility. In this case, it means real estate. It means it's something they have real estate in their inheritance, in the estate of the thief. He left them land or houses or proprietary interest in trees or orchards, something like this. Hayavin l'shalom, they would have to pay. So what's going on is a creditor cannot take from metaltalin after the actual person who owed the money has passed away. So he couldn't collect movable objects, metaltalin, from the heirs, but a creditor can collect karka. Somebody who was robbed is like a creditor. Now, the Varshim here bring up that in the Gemara, they talk about the fact that if it's something misuyam, something that's recognizable, the thief stole somebody's jacket, and they know it's his jacket, the victim knows it's his jacket, the children of the thief must return that item. Even if minadin, the letter of the law, they wouldn't have to, but it would be such a bizarre, such a disgrace for their father, the dearly departed thief, that these children are going around with a stolen jacket and everyone knows it's stolen. They'll find out it's a terrible thing. So in such situations where it's something that's noticeable and it's still here, they didn't eat it, then they would certainly have to return it. Now the Mishnah turns to a related topic about people who are stealing money and if you can make use of that money, similar to the Yorshim here. Ein portin, we don't take change, lo mitevat hamochsin, not from the box of the tax collector, lo mikis shel gabayin, or the coins from the the toll collector. We don't even take tzedakah from these people, from these sources. The idea here is the tax collector was not always an honest, humble public servant, federal employee here. Sometimes the tax collector was taking a lot more taxes than he should have. Sometimes the king gave him permission to take a certain amount, but he would take extra on the side and keep it. So the tax collectors were often also thieves and robbers in addition to being tax collectors. And I don't want to lump tax collector with thieves and robbers because it gives the thieves and robbers a bad name here, but Lamaisa, they were all the same. And the Gabayan here, it's not the Gabbai Tzedakah at Shul who goes around giving money to the poor. This is a Gabbai who's set up a toll booth at a bridge or a highway, and he's charging people to go across the bridge. And sometimes he had permission from the government to do it, but again, he was taking extra on the side. Sometimes he would just do it by himself, and it might be, a shakedown, a mafia kind of extortion racket, like protection money. Oh, you want to cross this bridge in one piece? Well, then you got to pay the 2 zuzim first, if you want to cross in one piece, of course. So we can't take change from their box because it's stolen money, and we don't even want to take tzedakah from them because some people will do things that are illegal or immoral and then give some of that ill-gotten gains to tzedakah and feel really good about themselves. We don't want that to happen. We want them to realize that what they're doing is truly awful, so they stop doing it instead of sort of, trying to make themselves feel good and make people feel good by giving a lot of money to tzedakah to cover up the fact that they're doing something terrible to the community. Of all, but the Mishnah adds, Notel hu mitoch beito umin shuk. But if you meet one of these guys at home, it's his own personal wallet, or it's his own wallet in the street, not his tax collecting box, and not the sack of money he got from shaking people down to cross the bridge, then you could take change or collect tzedakah from these people. It's just the ill-gotten money we don't want to mix up with the tzedakah. We don't want to mix money because that's stolen. Now, the idea here is even thieves would keep good accounting. So, someone who's a tax collector, he knows he has permission or maybe some sort of rishus from the king or the government, but they might change their mind. They might realize he's taking too much. So he would keep his personal money completely separate from the account of his tax collecting, also thieving money. So he would keep it on completely different books, so you could actually take tzedakah from the man himself, even though you couldn't take it from his ill-gotten gains. Tiskula mitzvot.